G'day, ZiggyD here, and welcome back for part 7 of the Path of Exile Survival Guide. In the last episode, we cleared the routes here and headed through Act 2, then coming back to do the bandit quests, eventually helping Oak for a nice 40 plus life, bringing us to a tanky 733 life at the moment. Now, we're going to progress on through and finished Act 2 in this episode, but first I just want to take a moment to explain some of the areas that we're not doing in this run-through. Now, this was probably the main one that jumps out to you, and this is the Fell Shrine Ruins sort of area slash crypt area over here. So we've got Fell Shrine and the crypt over here. Now, the reason we're not doing this quest in our normal run-through of normal is because it just gives us passive respec points. So if you need some passive respec points, this is the quest you can do, and once I finish normal, I'll probably go back and do all of these just to show you guys how to do a quick run for passive respec points, but we're kind of doing this in a semi-pseudo efficient manner. But if you want to continue on through there, it's nothing too dangerous. You can kind of just progress through that zone pretty safely and just a little bit carefully, and you'll get some passive respec points. So that's the reason we're not doing this one. This zone over here is, I believe, the Dread Thicket, I believe it's called. And it doesn't actually have a quest associated with it. It's just a zone you can clear out and farm a little bit if you want to. Sometimes it used to have a 100% guaranteed chest spawning there, of a large chest. But now that's just randomized, and very occasionally you'll get a large chest in there. So if you want to run in through there and maybe get a little bit of extra loot, then that can be something you can do to gear up before trying to finish Act 2. We're doing okay though, so we'll probably just progress on. So, other than that, let's jump straight into it and continue on through Act 2. We're going to be going straight to the wetlands. So we'll take the waypoint here to the wetlands. Actually, I just want to double check our gear. I think, we could do a much better helmet. Quiver's okay, boots are still pretty good. We've got life on the gloves, they're still pretty okay. Very nice belt and a decent chest. And our bow could use some upgrading. The 22% fizz roll is quite low, but the 9 to 8 fire damage is quite good. And mana gained on kill and physical attack damage leaked as mana is actually pretty helpful and pretty nice, especially when trying to use our single target attack frenzy at the moment. So other than that, I think we're good now to continue on. I will want to get some resistance rings sorted out soon, but we might be okay even for that. So let's go and jump into the wetlands and continue forwards. Now from here, we're just going to be heading upwards to the north. We'll eventually reach a cliff wall, and then we're just going to continue along the cliff wall to try and find the exit to this zone to where we're heading. So I'm going to just scoot past the bandit quest here. We might as well grab some chests if we need to. How are we doing on our amulet? An amber amulet. Ooh, it's a perfect roll. A 30 strength amber amulet could be good if we can roll it with a transmute. We do have a transmute. Let's do some running slash crafting at the moment. There's quite a few mobs here, so I might just clear this pack off first before we do some crafting. Keep things a little bit reasonably safe. So still just now using my fire trap split arrow combination, using split arrow kind of to cull off the already damaged mobs. We can also use some poison arrow still. Poison arrow is still very effective, even though we've changed bows. There's no reason why we have to stop using poison arrow. Oh, we've actually discovered at the same time the exit the zone. So you'll see the waterfall here. It'll usually be somewhere along the edge near the water. Now, that kind of just illustrated something that's a little bit dangerous. If you've got a lot of mobs around you, there's a bit of a delay before when you're zoning, essentially. Especially if you're in a slower computer. I'm on a pretty fast computer, so it's not a big deal. But if you're on a slower computer, it can sometimes take a little bit of time to zone into the next zone. And you saw I actually took quite a few hits there before I did that. So it's a good idea to clear off the area before you actually progress through that zone. So I did something bad. ZiggyD again showing you what not to do. Now, I would really like to roll some life on this. We're currently running rarity, increased elemental damage with weapons. Not a huge boost to us at this point in the game. So, ooh, perfect. This is so good. So 4% increased fire damage will actually benefit our fire trap, and 5 to 11, it'll also benefit the 5 to 11 fire damage from the amulet itself, which is a flat mod, which is fantastic at this point in the game. And also, we've also got fire damage on our bow, so we're getting some nice synergy here. Let's actually see, our DPS from split arrow goes up from 39 to 48. A huge jump, and frenzy is getting up to 60 DPS now, which is pretty nice for progressing through this zone. We could be much higher if we were specking really hard and trying to make sure we had a really good bow at this point, but we're doing pretty well, I think. And the fact that, that explosive trap does a lot more, fire trap, sorry, does a lot more damage now is also quite nice. So, basically, we're now in the cavern zone. Ooh, we've encountered some degen bears. The squid aren't anything too much to be worried about. Actually, these ones use Viper Strike, so do keep an eye out for stacks. And in addition to the degen from these bears here, which we've encountered a few times now, we've encountered from the Act 1 rower, and also from the zombie in the Chamber of Sins as well. Now, these guys are also pretty tanky, but you can see we're doing kind of okay now. in terms of being able to survive that. I think we've got a fair bit of life regen at this point. 9.6, yeah, not too bad for this point in the game. So just keeping an eye out for any helmet we need. An armor type helmet could be okay. I'd prefer to just try and stick and see if we can find some magic ones rather than crafting our own ones. So I'm just going to progress through here pretty normally. I'm feeling pretty tanky at this point, so I'm pretty happy to just continue forwards. Just keeping an eye out for Viper Strike stacks and things like that, but it shouldn't be too big a deal. I should be able to kill these guys off before they can do too much damage. These skeletons in here cast Projectile Weakness. Now, Projectile Weakness is an interesting curse. Firstly, it makes you take more damage from projectiles, as you would expect. It also applies a little bit of knockback, where you can see it above our head now. It kind of looks like this arrow striking a target, the symbol does there. But what that actually does as well is, it means some projectiles will also knock you back, which can, if you're getting smashed by a bunch of different projectiles, that can be a little bit dangerous. There's another split arrow. We actually don't really need another split arrow, so I'm just going to leave that. We've got a lot of blue squid here, so I'm going to farm these guys out for some nice juicy experience. How are we going in terms of level? Level 24 zone. We're level 23, so we could stand to get a level in here. We can progress through a little bit under level. Oh, we've worked our way into a corner here. We can progress through a little bit under leveled, but being about the same level of the zone is pretty nice for especially if it's your first run through the game. We've got 2 Viper stacks at the moment, so I'll just wait until those wear off. And we'll make sure to kill off these blue skeletons, because these guys will give us some nice XP. Now, something we also might want to consider moving forwards is just whether our flasks are good enough. We still have to upgrade one of our mana flasks. That's not a huge concern. Your health flasks are the main ones you want to keep an eye out for, but we might also want to make them magical. Especially bubbling or seething flasks are really good to be running as kind of panic buttons. What are we currently running? We just have 2 white greater flasks there, so if we can find some transmutes, we might actually try and craft those, because those are a pretty good size flask for this level as well. Okay, so I'm going to continue through this zone. There will be some dead ends, but for the most part you just continue through and it's just a straight line. Okay, so we've reached the caverns level 2 now. This one is a much simpler one even. You just run from point A to point B through here, and we'll eventually come out, we'll come out at a waypoint and the entrance to the next zone. So we'll just continue on through here until we reach that waypoint. These bears, this is another important one to point out, cast vulnerability on hit. So some mobs will curse on hit and other mobs will cast cursed as a spell. The ones that curse on hit, you kind of obviously just avoiding being hit is the best way to deal with them, and the other ones you can run anti-curse flasks, or you can just be aware of the fact that you're getting cursed and the weakness that applies. Vulnerability makes us take a lot more damage from physical attacks, which on these bears is, you know, they have some pretty nice synergy with the curse they're running. It makes a lot of sense because these guys deal a lot of physical damage. As you can see here, we've got you are cursed, you take more physical damage and more likely to be stunned, your energy shield regenerates slower, degens have increased effect. So the degen one is a bit of a worry, but mostly the one that I find to be the most dangerous is that increased physical damage. And I think I said in the last episode that I actually had a near-death experience on my Nemesis character pretty recently with the vulnerability curse and a powerful crits mob. So it's something you got to keep an eye out for when there's something that does a lot of physical damage and you have a curse like that, because it just amplifies the effectiveness of their attacks to quite an extensive degree. And we're actually on fire as well, so vulnerability will increase the damage we take from being on fire as well. It's something else to be aware of. Now, these guys, I don't think there's anything too much to worry about these guys. You can see that some of them are getting power charges. I believe they get power charges on hit. Or maybe it just says gains power charges. I'm actually not sure how these guys get power charges. But generally, 1 power charge on a mob's nothing to worry about. If you see them stacking like 3 power charges though, that's when you need to be a little bit more concerned. It means for each one of those power charges, they're more likely to critically strike you. Especially if you have something like, you know, the vulnerability curse on you as well, or critical weakness, or some other curse like that makes you take more damage. If they're going to crit you as well, then that's going to be very dangerous. So something to be aware of. Now, of course, the best way, you know, at this point of the game, when we're not running any like anti-curse flasks or anything more advanced ways of dealing with curses and things like that, is simply just to avoid damage while you are cursed, just to be a little bit more cautious when you are cursed. And although, you know, we can survive most things, even while cursed and getting crit in normally if we're stacking enough life, still really good to get in the habit of being super aware of these things, because as you progress forwards into Cruel and Merciless and eventually into endgame maps, being aware of the combinations of things that stack together is the most important thing, because often what's going to kill you is not, you know, just like some dangerous enemy. It's some dangerous enemy plus this other thing that's stacked together. So like you're cursed, there's a map mod that's reducing your resistances, and there's a bunch of different things stacking together that result in your death. And that's the most common way of dying in Path of Exile, I think. So as you can see, we've now just head straight through that zone. Pretty simple, as I said. Just straight across there. And we've reached the waypoint now. We can go ahead and click this. Now we can go back to town now if we want to. And I actually think we will, just for a second, to try and see if there's anything we can do in terms of sorting out our resistances. We're very close to a level, so if we can't get any good resistance rings from the vendor at the moment, we can actually level up. Now, what we're looking for is a combination of fire and lightning. Lightning is the most important, but fire has a good secondary purpose. And this isn't so much for the zones we're moving through immediately, but it's for the boss fight at the end of the act. Lightning is the most important, but fire secondary. So, we'll see. There's some nice... Ooh, that's such a nice fire ring. Holy, whoa. 29% fire resist, perfect roll. You know, the intelligence isn't a big deal, but 45 max life is a huge roll at this point in the game. I think that's like our biggest roll. No, we've got a 47 on our belt, so only slightly more on the belt there. And all it costs us is 1 orb of alteration. So that is a definite buy right now. Fantastic. This is why it's worth checking the vendors before you progress forwards. We've also got some pretty nice like cold resist rings and things like that, but we don't really need any of those. I'd really like a better lightning resist ring. The current one we have is terrible, to say the least. That's terrible. These are both terrible. And I'd really like to get a better lightning resist ring, especially now that we're only going to be wearing one of them, since we're wearing this nice one here, but this nice fire resist ring. Let's go ahead and just sell off some of this stuff now. So, by the way, I'm just control clicking to transport stuff over. We're not even getting any alterations from a lot of these ones because they're that terrible. The vendor recognizes how terrible they are. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my coral rings now because we've got pretty nice, magical resist rings with life on them. And that's eventually what you want to aim for. So, looks like there's not too much else we can do to get lightning resistant at the moment, so we might just progress forwards a bit, and when we level, we'll pop back into town to check the vendors for chromatic items, and to also check for a lightning ring. We just want to get a highest roll ring possible, and probably transmute it if we can't get a magical one. But maybe there'll be another nice magical one in there. You can see our life is up to a huge 843. It's possible to get like something like 1,000 life heading forwards to the end of Act 2, but that's overkill for sure. 843 is going to be more than enough to see us through, but getting some resist would still be very nice. So, progressing through this zone, you see there's a few different elemental spellcasters. We've got good fire resist now, so these guys aren't going to deal too much damage to us. You can see, does almost nothing. We actually kind of almost regen through their attacks, thanks to stacking all that fire resist. So, nice and easy, nice and easy. You do want to watch out for totems in here, actually. I think this is the first time we've seen too many totems. Sometimes they do spawn on ledge and things like that. But this one's just a slowing totem. Each totem has a different effect, so it's something you kind of want to just mouse over and look at. Here's a really interesting one. The others cannot die totem. So basically, it does exactly what it says on the tin. If we try and kill this skeleton here, he'll get down to 1 hit point, and then will not die. So we have to focus down this totem. This combined with a bunch of very strong enemies is obviously a pretty dangerous combination because you can't kill them off. And later in the game, this kind of amplifies together when some interesting stuff happens, like when you have mobs with some form of reflect on them, you're dealing a lot of damage, and these mobs cannot die, so you're not going to kill them off, you're going to keep reflecting on yourself and kill yourself that way. And we've had a famous hardcore death analysis video that I did a while back on exactly that form of death, so pretty interesting stuff. We'll grab this armor scrap. And just progressing through the zone. So the first zone, we're looking for the exit. We're going to just kind of head around the outside until we find it. It'll be somewhere along the outside. But there is a trick for navigating this zone as we move forwards. So what totem is this? Allies move and attack faster, so it's a turbo totem. Not too bad, that one. We want to watch out for like the Vaal these ones, the others cannot die totems are pretty dangerous, especially we've got some blue mobs in there, so these ones are like, they're just faster attacks, so not a big deal. We can kind of draw them away from the totem if we want to deal with them that way, if we don't want to kill the totem off. You can farm in here a bit, pretty good XP in here actually, although with all of these cannot die totems that are spawning, they're going to slow things down by quite a bit. Yeah, I'm not going to bother too much with those guys. We've got a life regen totem here. You'll kind of get to know these auras, and it's a good idea to do that, to get to know the visual aspects of each aura and what it means. So these guys are very tanky because, they regenerate in between each shot that we deal to them. So something like Fire Trap is good to keep sustained damage on them. And because we're fighting a rare here as well. Ooh, and he's got 3 power charges up, so we want to avoid his attacks. He's also, he has a lesser multiple projectiles modifier on him specifically. You'll notice he's firing 3 fireballs. If we stand right next to him, that'll probably shotgun us as well. And the fact he's got 3 power charges up means, you know, he could crit us with 3 fireballs at once. So even though we have a lot of fire resist, that's still pretty dangerous. These guys are lightning, so, you know, checking. Oh, a large chest. Oh! So good, so good. It looked like there was some nice currency and even a pair of boots in there. We could potentially get a boot upgrade from here, which would be nice. I do like a new pair of booties. But let's kill these guys off and see what we can find. We've got an alteration, some portal scrolls, and some rat boots. I'll just snag this loot and continue on. And we have leveled up, so as soon as I find the exit for this zone, we'll take a trip back to town and see if we can get a better lightning resist ring and any other gear improvements. Here we go, we've got the stairs. Pro tip for quickly mounting the stairs, you don't need to run up them. You can actually just approach from the side and, oh, if I actually don't screw it up, and just access. You can activate the stairs from the side there. Pretty hilarious. But just one of those minor points of optimization you can take advantage of in things like races. Come on, boots. Come on, boots. Whoa. Oh, no, they're pretty bad. Extra mana is helpful, but we've got run speed and some resists on our other boots, so we'll be keeping our other boots for a while. Run speed's super important for staying out of damage, avoiding damage, and just clearing zones faster as well. So I don't know why we picked up a copper Chris here. But we should check the vendors now, so we'll check for our chromatic items. We're actually starting to get some higher level bows now, so the bone bow is much more level appropriate, and we could potentially, if our bow was pretty rubbish, which is actually not that great at this point, we could get that. See, 1133 base physical damage is already higher than the increased physical damage of our other bow, and you know, some of our spells will scale off, some of our abilities will scale off physical damage later, but we can probably get away with the one we've got now, especially using a combination of poison trap and fire arrow. But I'll check through for any chromatic items. Look, there's nothing in here. We can actually scoot back to each other act to check for these as well. So we'll go back to Act 1 and check the vendors there for chromatic items. And then we'll go check nearer, I think, for a lightning resist ring. Looks like we managed to score just the 1 chromatic item for this time, but still increasing our stash of currency. Those chromatic orbs will be pretty useful in the future for re-rolling the colors in our sockets when it gets a little bit harder to make sure we have the right skills socket setups later on in the game. Any lightning resist rings? Ooh, at 29%. That's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Now, we don't actually have any transmutes at the moment. We could hold out for a transmute. We could use an Orb of Chance on it if we want to gamble. Orb of Chance technically are best saved for later in the game when you get specific white items that have a chance of rolling into a powerful and valuable unique. That's the best way to gamble with them. But if you want, and if you are a little bit desperate for a nicer ring, which, you know, we're pretty desperate for a nicer lightning resist ring, we could use this. And since I'm also a fan of gambling, let's see what we get. Oh, the worst. 16 intelligence is not particularly helpful at this point, so I'm actually going to roll it once. We got 3 to 7 cold damage and accuracy rating. That's actually not too bad. So let's go ahead and get that and stash our other currency, and we'll continue on now. Okay, so we might as well spend this skill point as well before we progress onwards. We're actually going to be beelining straight for blood magic now. The only detour we might make is to get these life nodes here, because they'll be very helpful for supporting blood magic and making us a bit tankier. And we might also grab unwavering stance and these life nodes here before we get blood magic as well. But for the most part, we're going to be rushing straight through to blood magic, because that's going to make get rid of our mana problems essentially. It gets a little bit. Most blood magic builds kind of have a little awkward point as you're progressing where you don't quite have blood magic yet. It's getting really hard to actually use your skills because of mana requirements. So we want to try and, you know, rush for blood magic as soon as possible. So we'll start heading there. Now, I've also thought it might be worthwhile running Hatred now. 60% reservation is going to be pretty hurtful, but 72... 8 mana cost on Split Arrow. What sort of DPS increase are we getting from that? And it's pretty minor, and that's because we have a pretty low physical damage bow at the moment. If we had a much better physical roll on a higher level bow, Hatred would probably be more worth it. So we're not going to run Hatred just yet. But while you're still mana based, you can run Hatred. So after the first zone that we just cleared, which is kind of has a randomized endpoint, this next zone actually has a very specific way you can head to get to the next area of stairs. Oops, I accidentally used my Hatred Aura instead of my Fire Trap. So we're going to stand still to kill off these snakes, because as you'll notice from their tooltip, these guys puncture us as well. And you're probably seeing all the blood flying everywhere of us as we're getting punctured by their nasty fangs. But I'll use my Fire Trap to help clear these guys off. Rustic Sash, probably not too helpful for us. Okay, So, we're not punctured. I'm going to take this off my toolbar so I don't actually bump it. We'll put fire trap there. And we're going to head diagonally, straight diagonally, up in this, diagonally north from the stairway. Now, if the stairway spawns somewhere else, we're going to just head to the opposite diagonal. It's kind of a square area. We want to head diagonally out, and it'll take us straight to the new stairs. So, we can actually just go, bam, Quicksilver, and run straight through here, and there's the stairs there. Now, I'm feeling pretty confident in terms of level. We're 24 going into 26 zone, so we could actually kill a little bit slowly. Maybe I'll clear this next zone and see if we can get another level before we head to Vaal, just for extra added safety, but it's not going to be a huge deal. Honestly, we could kill Vaal at this point. We're doing pretty nice in terms of gear. We've got tons of life. I should be heading diagonally from the stairs. As you can see, we're going diagonally in this direction now. But, you know, it's okay to spend a bit of time getting extra levels if it's your first run through and you want to make things a little bit safer. These guys are all less multiple projectiles spellcasters, so pretty dangerous. Running into a room full of those guys can get you killed pretty quickly, especially if they're like lightning ones and you get shock stacked. A bunch of shock stacks all at once can be pretty nasty. And we've reached the next staircase, again straight diagonal from the staircase we came from, and this should be the last zone before the actual boss fight that we're heading to. So I'll just clear my way through here. Again, same deal. Nothing too much extra to be worried about. Pretty much all of the same stuff we've already encountered. Might be some puncture snakes, some elemental spellcasters of different descriptions. So just to be aware of, like, if there's a room of spellcasters that, you know, they could be extra dangerous, especially if there's another totem in there that makes them even more dangerous. Just watch out for these combination of different things. And here we go, the Pyramid Apex. Now, at this point, you want to double check. Do I indeed have the Apex? If you don't have the Apex, or if you have segments of the Apex, but not the full one, you haven't actually done all of the bandit quests, and you cannot do this quest. You could kill Vaal, but you're not going to get it completed. So, yeah, you want to make sure you actually get that before you get here, otherwise you're going to have to rerun all of this again. So, what we're going to do now is, how are our resists going? Just double checking. Lightning resist 29%, fire resist 37%. Lightning resist is kind of more important in here, but we can avoid pretty much all of Vaal's attacks. So instead of going back and stacking some more resistances, which is something you can do, and if you have to choose, I would stack lightning resist over fire resist. We're going to talk about how to avoid Vaal's attacks. Now, Vaal is one of the most interesting fights in Path of Exile, well, until the addition of the new Dominus fight, I would have to say. But it's much more interesting and complex than the Vaal fight of Act 1. So we're going to drop a teleport here. How are we doing? We could add some more resistances from this belt, but the 47 extra life is probably going to give us a bit more buffer zone. Now, I'm going to show off what each of these attacks does to you, and also how to avoid them. So this should be a little bit of a guide for this fight as well, if some of you guys want to know how to do this fight a little bit better. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and stack some fire traps there, because he will eat those fire traps when he pops up. And what are we about to fight? What's going to happen here? It's getting pretty freaky. Oh, creepy noises. It's a giant vacuum cleaner! Ah! As you can see, he ate the fire traps. Now, the first thing he does is throw down a bunch of mobs. We've got these Vaal constructs here that deal, like, you know, this chaos damage stuff. So you want to kill off these guys as soon as possible while Vaal is away. Now, he's going to teleport and appear somewhere again. Now, he's doing his little jiggy dance. When he starts kind of dancing on the spot, that means he's dropping down rocks. These rocks will deal a ton of physical damage, and later on we're going to use things like Granite Fast to deal with them, but for now we're just going to watch our health. If we take a lot of damage, we're just going to heal ourselves up. We probably should have gotten some magical flasks, but we're going to do this without and see how we go. So, again, more enemies. I'm just going to show off all of the attacks before we actually start trying to kill him. Then I'll show you how to deal with each one of them. So he's teleported on top of us, and he's running after us. We want to run away. We're going to use our Quicksilver to get away from him. If he starts moving, that means he's about to use a powerful melee attack on you, and that can one-shot you. But what you also just saw there was his lightning attack. I'll try and show that off again. He's doing his little jiggy dance again. That means he is dropping rocks down. The ice, for the record, just makes you slow down and doesn't actually deal any damage. So his lightning attack, he does 3 blasts of lightning. Each one will shock stack you. So the first one isn't too bad, especially if you're stacking some lightning resist. But if you eat all 3 of them, you probably will die, because each one's going to be amplified in damage. So you'll see from the first run that I became shock stacked right away. So, you know, if you eat any other form of damage there, that's going to be pretty dangerous. Now I'm going to kill off these adds, and then I'm going to show off his main attack. Oh, we've eaten a lightning strike. So what you want to do to avoid that is just run circles around him when he does that, and pretty much just don't stand still. Alright, so I'm going to stand up with him in melee now, just to try and show off his other attack. I'll actually eat one for you if you can, just to show what sort of damage it does, because I'm actually pretty confident at this point we can tank one of them. But that's certainly not always going to be the case, and you're going to want to primarily avoid the melee attack. So here he is. Oh, no, we've eaten a shock stack, so I'm going to wait until that goes away before we eat any sort of melee attacks, because we will die if shock stacked at the same time. Now, while he's casting his little minions here, you can actually have pretty much free reign of attacking him, and he won't attack you in any other form, just his ads will attack you. So that's a good chance to deal some extra damage on him. And there's the melee attack. That does fire and physical damage in huge quantities. It looked pretty big, and it is pretty big. It does a ton of damage. I actually want to eat one just to show you guys how much damage it deals, but for now we'll just damage him. Here we go. Oh no, he's casting his ads again. So, in terms of attacking Vaal, you just want to use your highest single target attack. You can also combine that with fire traps and poison arrows. Lay down one fire trap, lay down one poison arrow, and you'll deal extra damage to him over time. So we can just do this sort of thing. I'm just watching my health now. And... oh! As you can see, that does a ton of damage. Oh, I just wanted to show that to you guys, because it's pretty big. If we didn't have as much life as we had now, you know, we probably would have been killed. We also have a lot of armor as well, 48%, which is pretty nice. So that helps a lot. But because it's such a big attack, it's going to cut through a lot of your armor anyway. So the best thing to do is just to avoid it. The two ways of knowing if he's doing that is, you know, if you're in melee range, it will trigger it. So if you're a melee character, what you want to do is kind of just attack him for a bit. I can actually show off with Frenzy our attack here. You just want to attack him for a bit, and then if he starts moving, doing any sort of action with his arms, then you want to run away out of there. If he's doing his rock falling dance, yep, we saw the time there where we want to move away. So hopefully that shows off all of the attacks. And now I'll just continue the rest of the fight while trying to avoid his attacks as best as possible, and we'll kill him off. We'll kill him off. Oh, he's running. That means he's going to use his melee attack. And running through the ice, he obviously slows us down a bit more, makes us a bit dangerous. So you just want to keep dealing with the ads and keep dealing damage to him whenever you want. This can be a long fight if you don't deal a ton of single target damage, which our character does not at the moment. We could have a better bow at this point, but we're doing okay. So I just want to avoid the rest of the lightning strikes. I took that first one, which isn't great. But we're doing okay. He's running after us. Get out of there. Now, it's kind of interesting, because the only time he ever walks around is if he's going to melee attack. So, as soon as you see him start walking, you want to get out of there. Now, when he's casting his ice, we pretty much have free reign of attacks on him. And again, when he's casting his minions, and then we want to move and deal with his minions, because we don't want to eat all of the volleys from these Vaal constructs here, or shadow minions. Now, these guys will keep our flask recharged as well. When he teleports on us, we want to get out of there as well, in case he uses a melee attack, because he will pop up sometimes and use a melee attack right away. And as soon as we get hit by lightning, we want to keep moving, or as soon as we see him start to cast lightning, we want to keep moving. We can kind of stand here and just go through these rock falls and just use our flask to deal with that. If we're out of flask, what we want to do is take that portal back to town and refill our flask. So once you learn Vaal's attack patterns, it becomes pretty easy to kind of just stand there and attack him and then just move when you need to. So we're going to deal with his ads now, and I'll try and show this off if I can. Waiting for him to reappear. Now he's using his shock, so we can actually attack in between each one of those as long as our attack speed and move speed is high enough, which we actually ate one, so not the best example. We want to get out of the ice though. We'll keep moving until he finishes this off. Get out of range of this ice. And we can attack him. We'll move in from the ice this time around. He's using lightning again. And we can just kind of stand there and attack him. What's he going to do? He's casting more ice. We can just keep attacking. There's more lightning, so we'll keep moving. Keep attacking. And you can see we can just work him down this way. I'm out of mana at the moment, which is really hurting. Frenzy's a really mana expensive skill. I should try and move and avoid that first lightning strike if possible. But we're keeping up pretty good sustained damage now. Later on, Dispel's Shock Flask is really helpful for this. For the Rockfall, we can just stand there and attack him pretty fine. And then we'll deal with his ads. And here we go. I think we're going to get the kill this time around. Oh, as long as we don't get double shock stacked. And loots! Alright. Oh, only one rare. Pretty rough. There's a sapphire ring. That could be handy if it rolls well. Anything else? How are we going for gloves? If they roll high life, they could be good. Anything else in here? No, shield's not useful for us. Silken glove is not going to be useful for us. We're in pretty need of a new helmet, so that might be worth checking. And let's ID. Anything good? Anything good? We got... Oh, nah, it's not that great. Our life roll and our current one's pretty nice. 6 to 12 fire damage. These are probably worth using over our 10 life ones. 10 life is obviously helpful, but we're doing pretty good in terms of life. But 6 to 12 fire damage is going to help out our DPS a lot. We have the 4% increased fire damage from our amulet as well, so there'll be some nice synergies there. We'll go ahead and use that. Bringing our DPS on split arrow from 54 to 65. Nice. 49 accuracy rating, pretty rubbish. And 5 to 9 fizz isn't too bad. That's a nice cold ring to keep handle on. 5 life gained on kills also pretty nice as well at this point in the game. So let's continue on into Act 3. Once we enter the city of Zaan, we essentially unlocked Act 3, and you just want to make sure you go through here. We'll have automatic access to the waypoint in this zone, so we don't actually need to click it, but it's just here for reference. And we're going to run through the rest of this zone and make our way into the Act 3 town here. But pretty good stuff. These guys deal lightning arrows, so we've already got the lightning resist sorted out from Vaal, so not too much to be worried about. This is actually a pretty nice zone to farm if you're feeling a bit under-leveled, and when we get into Merciless, we'll probably actually farm City of Zaan for a little while. Our gloves are pretty good now. There is a zone boss in here that I want to show off before we progress on, because he's actually extremely dangerous. At this point in the game, we can probably deal with him, but in higher difficulties, it usually becomes the case of avoid him as much as possible. So we're going to continue on through these guys. The carrion swarmers will just kill off, as the same as any sort of swarming little mob using our fire traps and AoE abilities. Ooh, is the zone boss in here? Yeah, there he is. So Perpetus is the larger one of these kind of undying outcast monkey-like creatures. They're kind of freaky, some sort of freaky creature from a horror movie. We're going to kill off all of these ads here so I can actually show off Perpetus in a bit more detail. He is very dangerous. He usually hangs around in the sort of the northeastern side of this zone, along the walls there, in sort of amongst the houses. However, that's not entirely reliable, and it actually seems to have become less reliable in recent times. Occasionally, he'll spawn somewhere where he can aggro on you if you're hugging this wall. Generally, when clearing this zone, the safest thing to do is kind of hug this left side wall throughout the zone. You can just kind of farm everything that you can see in this area. But since we want to encounter Perpetus on this particular run, because it's going to be nice and entertaining, ooh, another orb of chance. We're going to try and draw him out from his little hidey hole amongst the buildings here. Where is he? There he is, he's in there. Now, the first thing you'll notice is he throws bear traps. These bear traps deal a ton of physical damage and will root you to the spot. So when you eat one of these guys, the bear trap will root you to the spot. Now, the actual root time of bear trap depends on how much damage it does compared to your health. So if your health is lower, you're going to take, it's going to be much, much worse for you. Now, you can kill those bear traps through the use of AoE abilities that target the ground. So not something like Poison Arrow that deals a degen, but something like Cold Snap will do it. And I believe even the Fire Trap Explosion will do it as well, destroy those. So that's one way to deal with it. But I'm actually going to try and eat one of these fire traps just to show you guys. Look at all that damage. Oh, now we're rooted in the spot. And he's going to deal a ton of damage to us using the EK, Ethereal Knives ability. As you can see, he does a lot of damage. He's very dangerous. Once he gets you in the, in spot there, he can deal a ton of damage to you. And Perpetus has been the cause of many hardcore deaths. But we're going to tank him here. We're just going to face tank him. Use our health flask to get him down. And, ooh, a Grand Mana Flask. That could be useful soon to upgrade our other Mana Flask. Good stuff. So that's pretty much it in this zone. Ooh, we've got an Arming Axe over here to sell. And that's the main thing to worry about in here. Everything else in here is pretty easy. We've just got some skeletons and some bugs and things like that to deal with. But for the most part, Perpetus is the one you want to watch out for. Everything else is just good farm and mobs. Okay, so eventually you'll reach an area where there's a staircase down. Sometimes there'll be another staircase over here somewhere. And you'll reach the exit here to the Zaan encampment. And then, from this point, we just want to run up these stairs and up to the left. We'll kind of just follow this path all the way along here and down into the main town area, where we'll get to talk to some new vendors and stuff like that, so you can check all of those guys for chromatic items. And, if you've leveled up, you can go back and check all the other vendors for chromatic items. But we're now into Act 3, and Act 3 can be pretty fun. It's a pretty interesting one to clear. The zones and quests are kind of all over the place. But that's it for now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.